Ring ring! It's time for another episode of Crossplay Conversations, the show where we dive deep into the world of gaming while keeping it light. I'm your host, Luke Lewis, and today I'm once again joined by my co-host, the 3D printed man himself, coming off of a very successful Extra Life stream. It's Jacob McCourt.
Hi, yeah, we had a great time. Thanks for everyone who came through, who donated, who guested. We're going to figure out, they're live on the YouTube channel now, but Luke and I are maybe going to break those up into segments so folks can see it. We'll figure that out, but thanks again for everybody. Thank you, Luke, especially when I about 8 hours in, I was like, hi, I need a break and to step away from this computer, and you were gracious enough to figure out on the fly with me how to make Peak work in a Discord window. It was interesting.
We had a good time. It was very fun. Yeah, can't complain. Thanks for organizing everything on your end. I know it's a Herculean effort to have in-person tech setup and then have online stuff, and you're coordinating capture windows and all this stuff, but I thought it was really fun, and it was our first time doing that on the Crossplay channel, and so we're talking behind the scenes, but I think it's something we'll do live content somewhat regular. We'll see. It'll happen again, I guess we can say that.
Will it happen more than one time a year? Maybe,
yeah. Very good. Awesome. Well, Jacob, we can't waste any more time because we have so much things to talk about. So many games. They don't stop. We did an indie roundup episode last go around, but we said, wait a second, we have way more games to talk about. So here we are with a bevy of cool indie games to cover today. We're talking about Tall Trails, Discounty, The King is Watching, Megabonk, and Absolum, to name them. But before we get into that, let's jump into our icebreaker question. So as we close out the year, I wanted to chat a little bit about what a trend in gaming is that you think we're going to look back on 2025 for. Getting a little retrospective as we wind things down. This could apply to game design, industry at large. How you feeling?
Man, I hate to be a negative Nancy, so I'll start by making it more of a neutral comment, and then we'll see where it goes. But I feel like this year is going to be remembered by the sort of the way exclusives have gone the way of the Dodo console exclusives, where both PlayStation, sometimes you forget that PlayStation is all now publishing a lot more of their games. Maybe this isn't a 2025 thing, but like a 23, 24, 25 thing, where they're just publishing all their stuff a couple of months after it comes out on PlayStation on PC, but having, Xbox go multi-platform and move from, everything is an Xbox, TM, including a PlayStation, I think is going to be one that we look back to go, this was a real watershed moment, where Xbox is now just publishing everywhere. And apart from Nintendo, I really think it's going to be a moment where console exclusives will become fewer and fewer as years go on.
Yeah, I think similarly, I think the thing I was going to highlight was folks gravitating towards PC gaming in various ways, whether that's through these handheld platforms like Steam Deck and Roger Ally, or things like the Steam Machine that was recently announced. And then on top of that, the Xbox team push towards cloud-based stuff. Even on the PlayStation side, you see that happening as well. It feels like tied in with the exclusives, the theme is kind of less barriers to play bigger titles, I would say, across multiple platforms. And I don't necessarily see that as a problem. I feel like I haven't really ever been on the console war train in any camp. I think when you're like a teenager and you have one system, you are a little bit just by extension of like wanting to validate the thing that you have in your household. But once you're an adult and have access to everything, or with these different platforms that allow you to have access to everything, it's just less of an issue, but it's interesting.
Yeah, and as much as I want to complain about Xbox, which we've done here before, we still, it's a company that in the space, do we still want to see them exist? I think we still want to see them exist because more competition is good. Maybe I just don't appreciate how they've consolidated, and the further consolidation of the industry is going to continue to happen. There was a second where we thought Ubisoft was gonna finally be absorbed, but once again the Guillemot family has staved off another year of hostile takeovers. But as much as we complain about Xbox, we still want Xbox to keep doing their thing. I think we just wish that their business practices were a little bit more human.
Yeah, agreed. And for all they push wanting to support the studios that they purchased, it's a scary time looking at all of those studios and hoping it all works out. And I don't know, coming off of this year, I think about titles like South of Midnight or Keeper that I really enjoyed for what they were, but I worry that they weren't like the breakout successes that they needed to be in order to justify Xbox's bottom line, which is a whole nother conversation. But I don't think we've chatted about it on the pod, but what are your thoughts on this Halo remake as well, within this conversation? It's interesting to see a Halo game on a PlayStation for a first time. Like, that just in concept is very wild to me. I don't have a problem with it. I
truly thought they were done. I truly thought, like, 343, now Halo Industries, truly thought after Infinite that they were just going to be shuttered, and that maybe Microsoft would have taken the IP to another studio. I'm glad they're getting a shot to, make a remake, which I assume then they'll, get this done in UE so that then they can make a Halo 6 themselves. I wish them the best. I just, I think Halo's time has come and passed, and as much as I have a lot of reverence for it, I think they're going to have to do a heck of a lot to make us care about Halo again.
That's fair.
Yeah. Can I bring up one other trend? Maybe
please.
I'll just throw this one over the fence as started this year. I think the levee's about to break. Generative AI in games. Not necessarily has to be a positive thing. It's having seen people use it for temp art assets. We saw that in the Anno game. We saw that in the Altars, where there was placeholder
stuff that
made it into the final game. But then I think the thing that's really going to change things is how Embark has put in Gen AI voices in their latest title, Arc Raiders, and how they're talking about it and in a positive light. I think this is the moment where are more studios going to then talk about the efficiency gains that they've gotten from generative AI? I think it is very possible.
Sure. And this isn't, building on that, this isn't directly tied to games, but looking at, I don't know if you've seen the recent Disney Plus news with their use of AI, where they're proposing content where the user can create Disney Plus generated content for themselves within Disney Plus. And so people are like, wait, so you're paying a subscription to create AI slop and then watch it? It's just a wonky thing. So I'm just like, are video games heading in that direction? It's just, I don't know. AI is a whole can of worms that I just hope we don't lose the art, and I get sad when I think about giant studios using it in creative ways to save time and money, and maybe it saves you time and money, but ethically speaking, it's just awful and shitty, and the game suffers for it at the end of the day. So
yeah, it's I think it's something that unfortunately we're going to see more of before we see less of in 2026. So stay tuned for our Game of the Year conversations in January, where we get Jacob's bit of bad business. I'm sure most of the stuff we've talked about here is going to be there. So stay tuned in January for that.
Right on. Well, segueing out of that, we also have some positive things to talk about as well. We want to chat about all these indie games we've been playing recently. As of this recording, we've recently cast our votes for the Indie Game Awards, which will be happening in December. You can check out the stream on December 18th. It's going to be a blast. We're looking forward to seeing what wins. But that said, we've been playing catch-up, playing a ton of the nominees over these past couple of weeks, so we wanted to highlight 5 of them today. One of the games that both of us have been playing, Jacob, Tall Trails. I can give the quick elevator pitch for this one, because it took over my life in a good way. But this one is from solo developer Brady Soglin. It's available on Steam now. This game is such a blast, but quick elevator pitch for this game, because I think it's worth everybody's time. You play as a little blob character named Alp. It is a 3D platformer, Alp is on a quest to find his purpose in life. Very wholesome, very straightforward. But the game is wacky as all hell. It has this incredible physics engine. Alp has a literal boot strapped to his back, and then as you are exploring the world, collectathon style to complete challenges, you are picking up objects, putting them in your boot, and then using them in different ways to maneuver around the world. You can pick up, for example, like bombs or watermelons or snowballs, and all these different things give you different abilities to traverse the world. It's incredibly fun. The scale of it is huge. This is a spoiler, but it's like one of those spoilers that I'm like, y'all should hear this because you'll want to play it. But like by the end of it, you're flying through space, you're grinding on these crazy rails, you speak to a character who's the equivalent of God in the universe. Like, this game is so wild, and it really goes places.
I didn't think it would be a fine God game, but it's clearly like it's a fine God.
Kind of like I said, I don't want to spoil it because I think the way I pitched it to you was essentially like short hike, but big dumb fun scale in the best way. It was kind of my elevator pitch, because I think this game
has Breath of the Wild and a short hike kind of had a
but like big dumb fun in the best possible way of just like, wow, this is just moment to moment such a blast. It controls really well, but yeah, it's a straightforward game that I think just nails this genre, and I beat it in a little over 5 hours. I locked in and played it in 2 sittings because I was having so much fun with it. But yeah, can't recommend Tall Trails enough. I know you played this one as well, so I'll get off my soapbox for a moment.
No, because again, this was one that was nominated in the Indie Game Awards for Best Solo. You mentioned it was one that was not on our radars at all. Came out in August. And when you said, Jacob, you have to play this video game, I jumped into it, and it had the same energy that like Turbo Terry's Terrific Trip or whatever that game was called that came out. Now I have to look it up and see what Turbo Terry. I'll get the Tiny Terry's Turbo Adventure. I don't know. It's a 4Ts. It had very similar vibes to that, where it's like deliberately looks low effort, but the physics engine, to your point, of just going between different worlds to collect these little, are they blobs or orbs?
Like orb,
which is the collectible, but each island you go to, which imagine that most islands, at least in the 2.5 hours that I've played, there's maybe like 6 or 7 of these on an island on most of them, and you just put items in your boot, and each individual island has a unique item to that island that does something unique when you use it to propel yourself. So you might find a watermelon, and a watermelon you split in half, and then the seeds become like propellers. There's peppers that can give you like a rocket boost. At certain points you can just put mushrooms in your pack, or put little like flying leaves that just give you a propeller. It's just the amount of inventiveness in the items that go in your boot, and just the simplicity of gameplay. I really, really liked this one, and was, out of almost all the games that we, tasted or played as a part of our, judging and deliberation process, I think this is the one that surprised me the most.
Yeah, I think me too. And just going back to the fact that it was made by a solo developer, with how well it plays and how much content is packed into this one, I was just really pleasantly surprised. And it's like, oh, okay, Brady is now one to watch in my book of whatever you put out next. I think it'll just continue to evolve, but super cool game. It's on sale right now for $7.49 US, so $10 full price, but I would say well worth that for folks jumping in.
I almost want to go back and think and play his other game. He had 2 games, but Fossil Corner is one that he came out with in 2021, and it very much just looks like a fossil puzzle game, but it has a similar weird like aesthetic. So Tall Trails is one that, especially as we go into sale season, that you should look out for. I mean, it's $10. But if it's 40% off, you have no excuse.
Yeah, it's a great time. Can't recommend it enough. Jacob, a game that took over your life recently, Discounty. I played a bit of this one as well, but I'd love to hear your elevator pitch on it and your overall thoughts so far.
Yeah, it's think about it. It's from Crinkle Cut Games and published by P-Cube. This is one that came out over the summer, so maybe at this point, 3 months ago. What is time? This one's available on Switch and PC. I loved it so much on PC that I told my partner that she needed to play it, and the physical Switch cart was on sale, so I bought it for her to play. That's the level I love it. But what is it? It is very much like the shopping element of a game like Stardew Valley, or the shopping piece of Moonlighter, where you're just managing a shop. You move your new shop into town. It is a chain, so there's obviously a little bit of apprehension in town about like, oh, this new chain Discounty is moving into our small town. What's happening here? But you end up it's a small town, so you end up getting to know everybody in town, whether it's the guy who runs the hardware store, or you end up finding vendors that want to sell you specific like locally sourced items, and you really just take it day by day, where you are having people come in, buy things from your store, you're transacting, you're ordering items, you're putting stuff on the shelves, and it's got just such a fun little loop to it that is somewhat meditative. So at some points you will just get into that flow of, okay, I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I'm going to go stock up my store and then go through the day and then maybe, run some errands and do some stuff during the day. But then there's a story that's being told over top of this, not only between characters, but also, stuff that's happening in the town. So I've played this one for 12 hours.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know exactly where I'm at. I feel like maybe if I'm, approaching a third chapter, that I'm maybe halfway or like 60% of the way through. There's definitely an overarching plot, and there are things that are happening in town that I'm slowly tracking. But I'm loving my time with it. If Tall Trails is my like number one surprise going into the IGAs and the deliberations, this is number two. Awesome. It is one that took me away from playing more of some other games. I planned to spend a lot of time with Expedition 33, for example, as we prepared, but I ended up playing too much Discounty. So highly recommend if you are a Harvest Moon, Stardew, Animal Crossing, even the shopping bit of Moonlighter, please just get this game. Go grab it. It's great.
Yeah, it's really fun based on what I'm played. I'm curious because I think I've played probably 45 minutes-ish, so I've kind of just done the main intro and started opening the shop. I love the tactile feel of it, like the ringing up items on the cash register as you're plugging in number codes and restocking your store. Like, I think that gameplay loop is really satisfying. Do you feel like it evolves like progressively over time in terms of like the engagement of the shop mechanic, the overall narrative of the game?
Yes.
Are you still
I feel
invested in that?
Maybe it moves a little too slowly. I feel like, in some of those games where you feel like you get to a new season or something happens, I feel like maybe there's, maybe 10 or 20% more days, and maybe it's just that I'm really bad at it, but 10 to 20% more days than I was kind of hoping for, of just like doing the same thing over and over again with no story progression. But there is mechanical change, not only in the items you can bring in. There's more and more items that you can bring into your store, so you then have to figure out like the assortment that you're going to have in your store. There's changes to the cashier mechanic as you go. It gets different because you end up having to bring more customers in. So you punching every individual item in, their price in your cash register, eventually becomes tenable or something that isn't sustainable. So there's an evolution there. So, and then even in town there's different vendors that end up popping up, where then there's even a mechanic where you can go in and update your trade relationship with a specific vendor, so that you can either get an item for cheaper, or you can buy more of an item every week. It's it's got some layers to it that maybe cool. I wasn't on its face expecting.
Sure. That sounds awesome. I think Claire's going to be obsessed with this one, I think.
Yes.
She'll be a big fan.
Claire-ass game.
That's awesome. Cool. Another game that, once again, the theme of this episode is games that we played a lot of that we weren't necessarily expecting to. I I've been playing a ton of The King is Watching, which I know you played a bit of as well. This one came out in July. It is a roguelike kingdom builder, some tower defense elements, but the base pitch is you have your kingdom and you're placing resources on different tile spaces, and then the hook of this game is that you are the king who is observing your kingdom, and you have an outlined grid of the spaces that you are observing, and those are the spaces that progress moment to moment. So if you're staring at your trees in the forest, you're producing wood for your kingdom, and you have to kind of strategize, trial and error a little bit to move your observing tile window around the board in order to progress your kingdom. And then as you upgrade things, you add new resources, you're sending out troops to battle, you're doing all these crazy magic abilities and things too to fight in combat as you're building up resources. I love tower defense games, but it's not a genre I like delve into much these days. But I think about like early iOS games like Field Runners and things like that, or browser-based games where like
or
this
Bloons
style,
TD6,
yeah, or like this style of game just used to be such a go-to for me, so it kind of felt like a nice nostalgia hit. But I think with the way it structures its gameplay, it's incredibly it moves very quickly, and I loved the gameplay loop of this one quite a bit.
Yeah, it's when I played it when it came out in July for maybe between like an hour or two.
Sure.
And it was one that I, having been a person who played a ton of Age of Empires when he was growing up,
sure.
It scratched that same itch for me, where each run, and keep me honest here, is 20 to 30 minutes long.
Yeah, they're pretty quick.
So even if you build a kingdom that doesn't necessarily, stave off enemies as well as it should, or you don't get your tech tree in the right place, or you set up a building in the wrong spot and it hurts you, even worst case, you can just kind of, as a rogue game, just pick it up and do it again.
Yeah, and I would say too that it's not super punishing. Like, you can move around buildings and different things, and it's very much a game where like trial and error of like this run you really focus on this resource that then you try to sell to then unlock this item, but then if that doesn't work next time, switch things up, and I think the game definitely rewards you for doing that. Yeah, I've had a blast with it, and I think I've played like 4 or 5 hours of just really enjoying that gameplay loop. But I would say for folks that dabble with strategy but maybe are intimidated by a very hardcore involved experience, I think this is a nice middle ground of like approachable, fun, engaging, but also a lot of added depth. And there's different difficulty levels, there's different kind of challenge modes where you can pick harder waves of enemies coming to you. So if you want that crazy experience, I think that's also there for more hardcore players as well.
I really wish that this one was available on like iPad. And maybe at some point it'll hit Apple Arcade, but this is such a perfect iPad game.
I feel like on a technical level, no problem. I'm not a programmer, but just like visually and how the game runs, because it's a very pretty game, but it is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not graphically intensive, I feel like, but it is a nice clean art style to it.
It's got like an old-timey, it reminded me a lot of like the vibe of Pentiment as far as the look of it goes. Obviously looks a little different, but vibes are similar. I did try and play it on Steam Deck. That's the one thing I would not recommend is playing it on Steam Deck.
I think it's a mouse and keyboard. Yep, that's fair.
Yep.
One thing we didn't chat about with this game is the writing. I also think is really fun. There's a ton of moments where like an event will happen in your kingdom and you'll have to make a decision about how you proceed, and then that'll affect like your resources and stuff. And I just thought those little backstories and vignettes were fun and engaging and enhanced the tone of the game overall.
Yeah, I didn't see the end with it. Again, I've only spent 1 to 2 hours, but I just wonder as a rogue game what the progression looks like as you continue to play.
I do too. This was one where I was like, oh, I love this, but I want to get to more of the nominees, so I'm going to put it on the back burner get back to it. But yeah, I would like to see kind of where it goes and I also want to see late game kingdoms once you have like fully expanded options, like what kind of crazy stuff you're doing with the different abilities and whatnot. Nice. Speaking of a game with a lot of different abilities, jumping into Megabonk, which we've both been playing. This is from developer
Venonod,
yeah, that sounds correct to me. But for folks that aren't familiar, this is very much a action roguelike in the style of Vampire Survivors, but in a 3D space, which was all I knew about it before jumping in, and I played it, and I was like, yes, this is 100% that.
Yep.
But it's very fun, and it has consumed a lot of my time, and I continue going back to it, and I think it is doing some interesting new things. What did you think so far?
Yeah, I hate to put a game in a box, but when somebody said 3D Vampire Survivors, I went, oh, that sounds interesting. It is literally I don't want to call it a carbon copy, but it is very much heavily inspired by Vampire Survivors, to the point where if you've played that and you liked it, you should just get this game. It's $10, and I've played a couple of runs so far. I know you've done more, but it follows a very similar loop. I think there are some slight differences in the structure of a run, but even the chess sounds similar, like to that level of inspiration, if you will.
Yeah, I think they did a nice job about like making the characters and the specific abilities you're getting a bit different. But in terms of like general setup and flow, it's pretty darn similar. But the 3D space of it does change things up quite a bit. And there's things like you can summon boss portals or added challenges. And then I don't remember if Vampire Survivors did this because it's been several years, but you start with, say, 15 minutes on the clock, and then you're trying to survive for that 15 minutes, and then however much you survive past that 15 minutes is like bonus super crazy challenge mode. And so there's this added competition of not necessarily score based, but well, it is score based in a sense that leaderboard tracks, but it's more about like how much time can you last, which I thought was pretty interesting. And you can make it harder for yourselves. There's like different tiers of difficulty you unlock. I've unlocked a bunch of different characters, and they're all wacky and interesting. My favorite is Calcium. He's a skeleton who rides a skateboard and wears sunglasses, and so you're skateboarding around the environment, and that's really fun. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. It's a great podcast game if you need something in your rotation while you're watching your trash TV and just want something fun. This is the big dumb fun video game for me.
Yeah, and again, there's some slight differences. I think even there are, like, I don't call them totems, but there's little parts on the map where you can hit them to magnet all your crystals to you, or if you stay in a certain zone, you then get a power up. So it's building on the gameplay, but I was actually shocked at how similar it was.
Yeah.
When people were calling it the next Vampire Survivors, I'm like, oh, cool. No, it's that.
Well, and it's funny because I feel like since Vampire Survivors, we've seen so many survivors likes. Like, it's become a subgenre that's just, like, well-established, and it's just, like, it almost feels like Wii shovelware to a point where I'm just like, okay, everybody, your game's like Vampire Survivors, I get it, let's chill out. But, like, I will say this is a very good one, and I think it does stand out to me above the pack of, like, okay, you were clearly inspired by it, but you did some new stuff, you made it a quality experience, you differentiated yourself with, like, visual style and kind of some of the skill upgrade paths throughout. So I give a thumbs up to Megabonk, which I was a little on the fence of before I played it, but I was like, no, this is solid.
I think you were talking about it, and then I watched 61 Indie do their extra live stream, and I watched Kyle play a bunch of Megabonk and went, shit, I should get Megabonk. And it was a very easy $10 to just go and grab that. So to use another great one.
Yeah, to use the fire escape term, I think they call it lizard food. Not in a derogatory way, but they're like, it's just the best dopamine hit of fun that keeps you coming back, and it's like, yeah, kind of is. That is accurate. Alrighty, well, moving on, closing things out with Absolum, which is something we've both been checking out. this one, arguably saving the best for last. Not to show all of our cards here, but for folks that aren't familiar, Absolum is a roguelite beat 'em up. So that was the big standout for me, of the fact that it's using this template that we are very much familiar with, of similar to Hades, of a character-driven roguelite experience. You're unlocking new abilities. You're in this fantastical looking world. The art style is beautiful, but then within a beat 'em up, I was a little like, will this work? But after playing it, it's really, really cool.
When it's been getting a lot of praise, and not to diminish the work here, but when I think about .emu and the work that they've done, they usually do a lot of licensed beat 'em ups, which are usually quite good, but it's a tightly defined box. Whereas this being their first sort of original IP, brawler, I was just like, how good can Absolum be?
Sure.
It's good.
It's real good.
Yeah,
it's real good.
It's real good.
Yeah,
I ended up playing it in co-op, so I bought it on PlayStation because I had some PlayStation credits left over, and so a friend of the show, Travis Colnut, came by, and we were like, why don't we play it, because we both had been curious about it, and spent about 90 minutes. I think in that time maybe we did like 3 or 4 runs, and not only is the actual fighting really, really tight, and individual characters have like they're wildly different in the way they play, but the rogue piece of it, where you collect different power-ups that then can get better as you go, it's got a good progression to it as well.
And I even felt thus far, I'm only a couple hours in, but I feel pretty invested in the world and the characters and just the overall presentation and tone. It's like, this is very like well done and engaging and immediately intriguing. But yeah, I think the game feels rad. I've just been really enjoying. I'm hit or miss when it comes to parry-based combat, but man, when it works really well. And this game does it in a very satisfying way, where you're blocking attacks and then you're using your special abilities. And I haven't played in co-op yet, which excites me because I think it's probably even better with a friend. But I think it is very solid, and if you're interested, I would recommend it single player. Based on what I played.
I haven't touched it single player yet, but I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed playing it solo, because I don't know when Travis is going to be able to come over next to play it. So
Sure.
I'm just like, maybe I'll just keep going and doing it, because it's online co-op and couch co-op or solo. The only thing it doesn't do is crossplay, because you and I were talking about, because you have it on PC, I have it on PS5. It sounds like something maybe they've talked about a little bit in their Discord, but no immediate plans to get crossplay in there.
That's fair. Honestly, this is one that like I enjoyed so much because I played it on Steam, but I'm like, do I buy a console key so that over the holidays we can bust this out with the fam and crew? Because it really is that fun that I also think there's an element of pick up and play to it, where a beat 'em up game, easy to grasp. This is hit, this is block, let's move left to right, here we go, everybody. But there is a crazy level of added depth with the different combat abilities, and the characters play differently, and you can kind of min-max it that way, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and different elemental spells, and supers even that you can use. I've not been able to get past the first like major boss, but it sounds like there's, that first section, I'm assuming, is 15 to 20% of the total experience. So, maybe I'll beat that first boss soon.
Right on. All right,
Luke, I think we
that's
did
it.
a speed run. We covered it all.
We did a speed run. The fact is, there's just too many games out right now, so we wanted to touch on all of these. But obviously, programming note for our remaining shows this year. We'll be reacting to the Game Awards coming up in December. We'll also be doing a post-show after the IGAs air, kind of debriefing the show, going over what won, talking about a little bit of our behind the scenes as judges. And I think that brings us to a close for the rest of the year, which is wild to say. But then obviously we'll be back in January with our Game of the Year content. Super excited about that. We'll argue about what games win. Always a good time. Jacob, am I forgetting anything? There's a lot going on, but I think
No.
it's all good.
It's all good stuff. Maybe the one thing that I'll mention is that our schedule is maybe going to be a little bit not every 2 weeks here. That we might end up doing the TGA and IGA show sort of in rapid succession, and those will be the last shows of December. Because the TGAs are the 11th of December and the IGAs are the 18th of December, so it might be a little longer than 2 weeks for your next episode, but we will have 2 episodes dropping in December just like we did last year. Then we're going to take a little break and play a lot of games before we do our enormous giant GOTY coverage that we all love and we hope you love as well.
Hell yeah.
I was saying this in the Discord, so I'll just say it because this show is about bringing the Discord into the microphones.
Sure.
But I really love how we've gotten into these like waves of we have these scheduled formats that we have found entering year 3 of this podcast, where we always play a bunch of indie games in November. We talk about award season in December. We do our GOTY in January. We talk about our most anticipated indies. We do pack stuff, and then the middle of the year, we can play around with big titles and with less timely content. But it's really cool to just have these formats that we kind of jump into. It's like a warm sweater, you just find it and you grab it, and hopefully folks enjoy it as much as we do.
Yeah, let us know in the comments how you feel about it. But yeah, I personally am in that camp too. I really enjoy it. I feel like as a consumer of content, I look forward to seasonal content and like tentpole moments from different creators. So I think it's nice to kind of set that expectation, and it makes our planning more straightforward, and yeah, keep trucking on. But super excited for these next couple episodes. Also, as we mentioned, Extra Life content is on the live tab of our YouTube, so if you want to check out any of that 15-hour stream, it's there. It's very fun. Tons of shenanigans, good vibes for the kids. We also should say you shaved your beard as a result of hitting our milestone, and if you tune in for our GOTY content, you'll see me with purple hair, because that was something I agreed to.
Yeah, we agreed to 3 things. I would shave my beard. I hate it, but I did it for the kids. You're going to dye your hair purple and in front of the show.
Temporarily. I need it on the record that it is going back to normal at some point.
And then, Kate from No Small Games joined us for our peak, playthroughs. And she had said in 2026, when she gets her PC set up, she is going to do an Elden Ring stream for the first time. And she wants a council of coaches to be there coaching her along. So those are the 3 incentives we set for getting stuff together. So thanks to everyone that donated, that came by. It was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. Gonna be some good stuff coming up. All right, well, I think that brings us to a close. So I'm going to ask you to set our status 2 away until next time. But before then, I'm going to have you do 4 things. Please give us a follow on BlueSky at Crossplay Convos. Subscribe to us on YouTube, also at Crossplay Convos. Send this podcast to a friend, because that's how people hear about podcasts. And of course, give us a review on your podcasting platform of choice, because it really, truly does help. And with that, live, laugh, indie game, and goodbye.